Okay, I think this is working. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the last save point. And today, this is not video games at all. Instead, I decided I was going to do something which I think kind of fell out of fashion 6-7 months ago, but it's fun and it's easy, much like me after 3 margaritas. Haha. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to do a tier list of the Bleach Captains. Because I've got back into Bleach in a massive way lately, and I was like, hey, you know what? You know who likes giving his opinions? It's me. So the way this is going to work is very simple. I'm going to point out where I am in Bleach, which is round about the Fullbringer arc. I haven't got round to finishing the actual series. But I do know in broad strokes what happens to everyone. Like, I know who dies and who lives and who ends up. So the fact not the people here are here isn't a spoiler to me. But it does mean I'm lacking a bit of, like, the emotional weight to things. Like, again, I know who dies in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, but I don't know. I haven't read it, so maybe how well written it is or how dramatic it is might change my opinions on matters, but that doesn't really matter. What does matter is, this is entirely just my opinion, and you're allowed to yell at me if you like, if I'm just completely wrong, and I'm like saying, if I do that, you're allowed to yell at me, disembowel me in the streets, but I won't, because that would be rude. Instead, we're just going to go this one by a time, put them up there, and we'll see where it ends up. Also, if something that happens after the Fullbringer arc, like, completely defeats one of my points, yell at me about that too, and it'll be funny. Don't hesitate to spoil things in the comments for me, because, you know, something's got to motivate me to finish this bloody series. I've been watching it since I was a teenager. It's ridiculous. But yes, so we're going to start, and it's Aizen, because of course it is. The man would literally use his hypnosis powers to stop me from thinking it was anyone else first but him, the egotistical sod. And honestly, you know, actually, he has to go somewhere in S tier because Aizen's one of the coolest villains in all of anime history. I mean, you got to remember how freaking good he was in the Soul Society arc with, like, manipulating Momo so perfectly and killing off the Central 46 and never once being suspected until the moment he revealed it. And how he blocked Ichigo's sword with one finger and all of that. And the coolest part was, like, he never went downhill afterwards. He stayed at that absolutely badass level right up until the end he lost. And just, it's Aizen. He's up there with, like, Frieza as, like, some of the best, the most iconic anime villains ever. So he's an absolute shit captain and a worse man, but my goodness is he a cool character. One of the best. So yes, he's probably going to be, like, the lowest of the S tier just because, you know, he's such a dick, but the lowest of the S tier still makes you better than everyone else. Okay, so next up is Byakuya, and honestly, Byakuya, to me, what I've always thought about him is, he's like the average when it comes to, like, the power level of a captain. Like, that might sound weird, but to me, like, to compare, like, anyone who's, like, considered a captain class character in this show to Byakuya, if you can look at a character and go, yeah, they definitely be able to beat Byakuya, you know, like Yamamoto or Aizen or something, then yeah, they're one of the high tiers, they're one of the big deals. And at the same time, if you're like, oh yeah, Byakuya would stomp this guy, you know, like the lower Spada and stuff, you're like, yeah, even if they count as captain class, they're not that big a deal. Like poor Renji. Hey. But yeah, so even if he's completely average at like power level isn't anything, and let's be honest, Byakuya is one of the coolest characters in the entire show. He's unflappable, he's confident, he's got a character arc that kind of accumulates at the end of Soul Society, but that's not the point. And, like, it's Byakuya. What can I possibly say? He's one of the coolest characters in the entire show. But, and here's a big but, I'm not going to put him in S tier. Because, you know, he's not one of my all-time favourites. But I'd be ripped apart by fangirls if I put him anywhere lower than the A tier because, you know, how can you ever possibly question that unless you are Renji and bitter? Next up is Geen, who is absolutely going ahead of Aizen, just no question. He's actually my favourite bad guy in the entire series, just because he's slimy and he's manipulative and he's an asshole, but he's still got like that just I don't give a shit what you think charm to him. That means he can psychologically fuck with people with a smile on his face for no other reason than he thinks it's funny, and it's great. Plus you get all the jokes about his sword being fast and large and penetrates. Plus, the man figured out a way to make Matsumoto fall in love with him, so he's doing something right, even if that was the only right he ever did in his life. Heh. Alright. Iba, I love you, buddy, but you're going an F tier. Actually, you know what? That's not fair. Hold on, let's think about this for a second. Iba shouldn't be a captain. Let's be honest here. We don't even know what his Shikai does. We've never seen him battle anything that's kind of impressive. And to my knowledge, I looked it up before making this video, the 1,000 Year Blood War arc doesn't actually reveal any of his powers, and it doesn't give him Bankai or anything. It's just time skip and suddenly he's in charge of the 7th, and I'm just like, what the fuck is up with that? Because, okay, one of the best things Bleach has going for it is how it's able to handle introducing whole sets of characters and making them all memorable and more exciting. The fact is, when they got to Soul Society, Tai Kubo was like, okay, I'm going to introduce 13 captains, they can all have lieutenants, and I'm going to throw in a handful of, seated officers and stuff, like Hatsumoto and, I suppose, Genji and Ikaku and Yamichika, all these other characters. Most people, most writers, if they were told they had to introduce 26 new characters, you'd be lucky for them to get halfway and still have interesting and new ideas. But Tai Kubo just kept on pulling it off the entire series. Boom, you leave Soul Society and he's introducing the Vizards. Boom, he's introducing the Espada, the rest of the Arankar. The guy's a machine at introducing characters that stick. But Iba just... If this was the lieutenants list, I'd have him as the second worst after the idiot from the 1st division. Because he's a manly man and he's got sunglasses, but there's just not much to him. If he had a whole bunch of character development, then sure, but no. He's just kind of there. What should have happened, in my opinion, is Iba should have stayed as the lieutenant, and after the time skip has Renji as the captain of the 7th, and you could finally bring that to a close of him being Byakuya's equal, and it'd be a nice little ending to his character arc and everything. But nope, Iba, without explanation or any reason. And it kind of degrades what a captain's supposed to be, because you look at Iba and you're like, there's no way he could take on anyone on this list other than, Aizen. Yeah, other than Aizen, Iba, you would not predict him to last 10 seconds. Well, maybe... Okay, Rukia, before she became a captain and got Bankai and all that. But even, Hueco Mundo arc, Rukia, you could see her putting up a good fight against Iba. And you might even say she'd be able to win it because she's got so many cool ice powers. And now apparently he's just a captain out of nowhere. It's bullshit. I honestly think he got promoted just because there was a gap Tai Kubo felt like he had to fill. And he didn't want to give it to Renji for some reason. It's kind of depressing. But yeah, I like him as a character. Wish he'd had more time. And I suppose that's the other problem with introducing 26 new important characters. Of course, some of them aren't going to get the kind of screen time to become memorable. So he's just the manly man with sunglasses. And he's in E tier. Because he's kind of dull. Alright, so Yamamoto... I'm going to put him in F tier, and I know what you're thinking. He's cool. He's the kind of boulder you'd want as a main leader type figure, and you're right. But the problem is, he's such an irredeemable dickhead, and I can't stand him. I genuinely can't. everything Mayuri does, apparently he signs off on. The fact that he's, like, the main reason the Soul Society has remained, like, a military dictatorship is Yamamoto's fault. The fact they enforce such absolute bullshit laws all the time. Like, Yamamoto is an evil man. And we're just supposed to forget that. Like, once Aizen becomes the bigger threat, we're supposed to just, like, quietly forget all the terrible shit Soul Society's done, and I didn't. Is the problem. Like, he's a monster. He's killed so many people, and he's ordered genocides, and yeah, no. I would like him much more if, like, the good guys had killed him because he deserves it. Not, like, just died trying to hold off bad guys getting fucking wharfed. Which doesn't really pay for anything. Tragic. So yeah, he can just stay there in the dirt. Yay, Ishan. And honestly, when it turned out Ishan was the former captain of the 10th, that was like the best news ever. Because just immediately, how funny is it that he used to be in charge of Toshiro and Matsumoto? It's just great. Only before that, Ishin was one of the best characters Bleach has ever had. He's just, like, so memorable and energetic. Everyone loves him. Like, there's no way you can ever say no to Ishin. He's going in the A-Tank. Oops. I'm going to put him headed by Okua because I would rather watch Ishin interact and meet new characters than I would by Okua. Like, they can both be great. But I would absolutely love to see Ishin interact with all the more characters and give them more to do and more fight scenes. Like, remember him flicking off Aizen so hard it put him through a building? Like, it's the best. Ishin's the best. So there. Right. It's not even a question. Kenpachi isn't just my favourite captain. He's my favourite character in all of Bleach. So he goes there and he gets to stay there because I love him. He's just so cool. He's everything I love about anime. He's ridiculously over the top. He doesn't do anything that isn't super memorable. Like, just yes. Kenpachi is all of the yes. He's like what I hope any D&D character I make will end up being like, just even a quarter of that badass. And he goes around with Yachiru on his shoulder, which makes him even more manly. So, yes. Good. Kenpachi wins. By doing absolutely nothing other than him being himself. Which is a very uplifting message if you think about it. Alright, next, Izane. I don't know how to pronounce her name, look that up later. I'm actually going to put her slightly ahead of Iba, but she runs into all the same problems he does. Because the only time I've ever seen her do anything which shows how powerful she is, Ichigo, in Shikai, in Soul Society arc, takes her out in one hit with his bare hands. And they never give any time to saying she got more powerful or to redeem herself from that. And now they're telling me she's the captain. And not only is she captain, she's supposed to be the replacement for Rietsu fucking Onohana. And you're telling me for a second I'm supposed to take that seriously. Because I won't. Like, I love her as a lieutenant. She's great. Like, slightly anxious, trying her best. Like, she's an absolutely great lieutenant. Power levels be damned, she's part of the 4th. So just, like, all her personality and stuff. She was, like, the best character they could have come up with for, like, the role of lieutenant of the 4th. But she isn't captain material. And again, I genuinely think she was just to fill the gap after Retsu died. Spoiler alert. But in my opinion, as I was saying, like, Renji should have gotten the role of 7th captain. And it should have been Hayachi? The pink-haired guy from the Visored. I think he should have become captain of the 4th because he had the power to do it. He knew about healing Kido and stuff. And he has a friggin' Visored mask. And he was able to do, let's say, half the work to killing the second most dangerous Espada. So, you know, he definitely deserved it. And all the other... And it would have been one more Visored in the Soul Society, so it's less awkward about breaking the group up. Yeah, so she gets to be ahead of Iba because I like her more as a character, but she's in the rank of shouldn't have been a captain. You know what? There you go. The shouldn't be here, which means the F is worst. There we go. Alright. Kensei is just a fucking badass. I'm going to put him here. He has a cool knife. He's got a badass personality. Yeah, Kensei is just one of the coolest characters. He's someone else I wish had gotten like at least 2 more fight scenes under his belt. Because he's just so cool. And he's a visored. Yeah, no. No question. Actually, I might put him down there. Just so I'm kind of broadening it up because... Yeah, I don't like him. You know what? I don't like him as much as I do Byakuya Nishin. So yeah, B tier. That's a very high B tier. It's like a tiptoeing on the edge of A tier. If he'd had more cool shit to do, I'm sure he'd have made it. Lisa is like... Unfortunately, the entire Vizard kind of feel like they didn't get enough screen time. They're all such great characters and I adore them. But most of them didn't get anywhere near the amount of use that they could have done. And Lisa's like that. So I'm going to put Lisa like there. But again, she's really, really cool. But, like, she's cool without... She's just standing around being cool, if that makes sense. Like, off screen, doing something else. Oh dear. Alright, Mayuri is my least favourite captain. Like, I adore him as a character. He's like the perfect evil scientist, lunatic bastard, gremlin. But the fact is, he's so pure, irredeemably evil. He actually taints everyone on this list in my eyes, because none of them did jack shit to stop him. And, like, that makes all of them, like, slightly complicit in, like, his horrific war crimes. Do you know what I mean by that? Well, actually, don't. Ishin, you're an angel and everyone loves you. You haven't done anything. You left before, I think you... Or did he? I'm getting the timeline confused. If he was around the same time Mayuri was captain, then I take that back. But, like, I genuinely think Mayuri should have left with Aizen. It would have made so much more sense for after all the evil shit Mayuri brags about doing in his fight with Uryu, that, like, at the end it turns out... Hang on, let me start over. What should have happened is Mayuri starts bragging, and only after he starts bragging, like, does words start getting out about just how bad it's getting done. And, like, Yamamoto's like, I am going to start looking into all of your crimes, Mayuri. And then Mayuri at the end is like, ha, I was with Aizen. I'm going to Hueco Mundo now because Aizen's promised me I can do all the experiments I want with absolutely no consideration for law or morality or sanity. Like, that would have been cool. And he could have abandoned Nemu because he's an asshole like that. And then Nemu could have grown and become her own person after being betrayed. And I know that's basically Momo's character arc, and Momo didn't get enough screen time to go through it, so having 2 of the same arc at once wouldn't have been that great. But the difference is, Nemu could have killed her abuser because Mayuri isn't the main bad guy. And that would have been far more satisfying. Maybe replace Azrael Apollo Grands with Mayuri entirely, and just as Renji and Uryu are about to get killed, Nemu shows up with, like, the counter to all his experiments, because he never bothered to consider that Nemu would know everything. So she's like, and here's a cure for this poison, and here's a counter for this experiment, and here's a counter for this escape attempt, and now you're dead because Renji has eaten. You know, like, that would have been far more satisfying, and Mayuri deserves it because he's a piece of shit. But, so yeah. The fact Mayuri gets to roam free genuinely means I have a hard time judging the rest of the main characters of this freaking show as good people because they just let him do it. Like, have you ever considered that? Like, Mayuri... In the manga, Mayuri literally admits to forcing people to burn their own children alive. And everyone else is just like, hey, buddy, hey, you clown wearing so-and-so, let's come be friends and hang out. And they don't do anything to stop him. Which means everyone on this list is kind of a monster, purely because Mayuri stays on the side of the angels. And it's kind of disturbing. Anyway, enough complaining. Is that Rose or is that Love? I always forget which one's which. Because, like, again, about the wasted potential thing, like, so many characters in Bleach are, like, awesome and memorable and creative, and then they don't have shit to do the entire storyline. And Rose and Love are, like, the best examples of that. Like, they're two absolutely awesomely designed, badass fighters, but they have, like, nothing to do and are almost always just seen together. So they've blurred together in my mind, which is such a disappointment and a waste of potential, but I swear Bleach has, like, 3 missed opportunities for every one thing it does epically. Anyway, I'm going to get this out of the way now. Both of them, I'm going to put them in C tier, because as much as they are both absolutely badass, they just don't have enough to do for me to really remember which of them is which, first of all, so that's a pretty bad sign, isn't it? Rukia goes in S tier because it's Rukia, like the second most important character of the entire show. And her getting to go from an unseated officer all the way to captain over the course of the story is just so awesome and so earned. And Rukia's the best. Everyone loves Rukia. Rukia can go ahead of Aizen. Yeah, you know what? I'll put Rukia ahead of Gin too. She deserves that. Rukia takes the second spot for now. It's Rukia. Any Bleach fan knows why she's the best. Komamura. The thing is, Komamura, again, with the wasted potential. You could have an entire story about a fox man going to a human-based heaven and being an outcast and all that. And we got so little to do with the actual, like, animal man in the end that the only resolution it ever got, I believe, is an excuse to give him a power-up right before he dies. And that sucks. Because you could have had an entire arc about... what... He could have been, like, mythology. He could have been animal spirits. He could have been anything. But nope. No, never went anywhere. Even though Komamura does have one of the absolute most badass bankais in the entire show. And I love him as a character. So he gets to go to the front of B tier. And he's another one I absolutely wish had gotten more screen time out of him, because I would have watched him, like, take a squad out for an entire filler arc. Which is what they should have done with filler arcs, really, because, my goodness, can you imagine just taking, like, 4 or 5 of the captains and lieutenants that don't get much screen time and giving them their own adventure? Would have been so much cooler. Shinji goes straight up to the actual second place because he's one of my absolute favourite characters. He's like Doctor Who, in my opinion. Like, he's a weirdo, but he's a weirdo because he's so self-confident and he's so aware and, like, just comfortable with himself that he could just get away with doing anything and still forcing everyone in the room to sit up and take notice. Like, he's not the most he's one of the most powerful captains in the entire show, because, like, after the final time skip, like the epilogue type bit, I genuinely think he's the 3rd most powerful captain in the Soul Society after Kenpachi and Shunsui. So yeah, but even so, he's not like the Aizen Yamamoto level, but you still kind of had to put him on the same level, partly because he was the leader of the Vizards, and partly because he was just so damn awesome. Like, you knew he'd stab you in the back if you started ignoring him. So yeah, Shinji is the best. Second best. Kenpachi by love. This guy is from that filler arc. I never watched it. I shall put him in worst tier because I don't care about his existence. And that's tragic. Slightly hilarious too. Soifon is one of my favourite characters, so she's going in S tier. It's just a question of where, because she's a badass angry ninja chick, but also she's like got the weird cat thing going on, and she's got the surprisingly meaningful relationship with Yoriichi. You know what? I'm going to put her there. Because, yeah. Soifon is awesome. Angry ninja chick with a fucking rocket launcher sword. How can you not love that? If you don't love that, you're wrong. Sorry, it's just science. Tozen is just cool. Tozen is really cool. He's got a deep he's got one of the best thought out motivations. He's got a really interesting power. The blind aspect is cool. Yeah, Tozen's great. I wish they'd given Tozen more screen time again, honestly, but They didn't, but he was still, like, just stole the show so often. Like that time he cut Grimjoe's arm off just out of, like, petty spite, rather than let Grimjoe get away with it. Like, yeah, Tozen is the best. So, he goes in A tier because just absolutely have to love him. But, yes. Toshiro, I know, like, so many people are like, Toshiro, he's the best, he's the greatest ever. But, and I do really, really like him. I just don't feel like I have the same level of hype as a lot of people. Maybe it's because I'm straight and, like, most of his fans are fangirls who think he's cool. Even though he's a bit cold-hearted. These puns are making you frosty. I will stop. So yeah, Toshiro is still one of the best characters in Bleach, but I'm not as, like, overexcited as... So I like him more than Tozen, definitely. Yeah, I feel like that's a fair place. Yeah, I'm sticking with that. Anohana, everyone loves Anohana. She's just awesome. I do wish they'd given more time to after the reveal, but I know I said I haven't read the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, but I have read her training arc with Kenpachi, and it was just so awesome. So she's definitely going in A tier. I like her more than Tozen. Do I like her more than Toshiro? No. But she's still just the best. Urahara, he goes third place. He's totally my third favourite captain without a shadow of a doubt. He's cool, he's collected. He's got so much of what I love about Shinji, but he's got his own mystery going on and his own plans, being the mastermind. Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. I want to get one of his hats someday, but then doesn't every Bleach fan. Okay, and the last two, the husbands, have been saved for last. And honestly, both of them are characters you absolutely have to adore. Because they're both, like, so cool. Shunsui I shall put definitely ahead of Toshiro. Is it... it's very hard to decide. You know what, I'm going to put him ahead of Byakuya, but not Aishin. Yeah, I think that's good. Because he's great. He's lovable, he's serious when he wants to be. He's freakishly powerful at times. Yeah, no, definitely. And finally, Ukitake, who I love and I wish had gotten more. I know I'm a repeating broken record, but really we all just wanted more Bleach. Ukitake, I shall put at the bottom of A tier because, like, I know it was kind of the whole point with his illness and stuff, but the fact he didn't get to do as much as he should have really is a shame. But it is freaking awesome. And there's the fact that, well, you know, he's just cool. Plus he kind of had an Eldritch Abomination locked up inside of him, and how can you not love that? Right then, I think that's the tier list. I'm just going to give it one glance over and see if I want to change anything in the final. It's probably for the best that no one was in D tier. No, I don't want to delete it. Stop that. Yep, I think this is a fairly accurate list. I mean, I'm sure so many people are going to disagree with me. And I really do apologise to you two down here in the shouldn't be here aisle, but I held to what I said. You guys were cool as lieutenants, and you guys suck. Go away. I'm glad you're dead. Yeah. Well, this was actually fun, and getting to ramble about my opinions is always fun. So, if I ever feel like it, I might do this with, like, the Espada or something. That'd be fun. All the lieutenants. I don't know. Well, next time on the last save point, something else entirely. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.